We recognize these logos instantly: Coca-Cola, Honda, Pepsi, Snapchat. They occupy a permanent space in our culture, supported by decades of marketing that equates these names with happiness, hard work, and wholesome values. But the origin of a global monopoly rarely matches the brand's public myth. Beneath the polished surface, these empires were built by industrial gears that ran on ruthless obsession, corporate espionage, and in extreme cases, literal violence. To reach the top, the founders of these companies treated business as an actual war zone. They bartered for fleets of warships, scavenged materials from bombed-out cities, and built platforms specifically to facilitate illicit, untraceable communication. These specific case studies reveal a recurring pattern, a set of aggressive maneuvers used across a century to dismantle competition and consolidate total power. The history of Coca-Cola provides the first blueprint. John Pemberton's original brain tonic wasn't a product of laboratory innovation, but a direct ripoff of a popular French medicine. Pemberton, a war veteran struggling with a severe morphine addiction, loaded his version with wine and cocaine just to manage his own physical pain. When a pharmacist named Caleb Bradham saw Pemberton's success, he copied the formula to create Pepsi Cola. Bradham lacked a unique strategy of his own, and when the price of sugar fluctuated after World War I, his company collapsed into bankruptcy twice. The modern tech giants follow the same arc. Evan Spiegel and his fraternity brothers didn't build Snapchat to revolutionize communication. They built it as a sexting app, specifically designed so people could send dirty pictures that would disappear before they could be saved. The initial concept actually came from their friend Reggie Brown. But once Spiegel and his part-era Buddy Murphy realized the app was going viral, they changed server passwords and completely locked Reggie out of the business he had helped invent. Dominant corporate empires rarely begin with noble intentions. They start with theft, vice, and a willingness to prioritize profit over friendship or morals. Once an empire is established, it must be protected through total aggression. In the late 1800s, John D. Rockefeller brokered secret, illegal deals with the major railroads. These kickbacks allowed him to ship his oil for a fraction of the market rate, choking off the supply lines for his competitors. This diagram demonstrates the geographic stranglehold Rockefeller built. During the Cleveland Massacre, he used predatory pricing to force rival refineries to sell their businesses. By the end, he controlled 90% of the industry. Over a century later, Mark Zuckerberg employed a nearly identical power play. He summoned Evan Spiegel to Facebook headquarters and delivered a blunt ultimatum: sell Snapchat to Facebook, or Zuckerberg would destroy them with a clone app. Spiegel's response was a direct acknowledgement of the conflict. He bought every one of his employees a copy of Sun Tzu's The Art of War. His team refused to sell, out-innovated the clone, and watched as Facebook's poke eventually faded into obscurity. Whether in the 1890s or the 2010s, building a monopoly requires viewing competitors as enemy targets in an active war zone. True empire builders also know how to weaponize a global crisis. During World War II, Coca-Cola lobbied the U.S. government until their soda was classified as an essential wartime product. This maneuver exempted them from sugar rationing and used taxpayer money to build 64 bottling plants around the world. While Coke used American soldiers to market its patriotism, its branch in Nazi Germany was busy inventing Fanta to maintain profits inside the Third Reich. They stripped the American branding away and distributed the new drink at Hitler Youth rallies to ensure they dominated both sides of the conflict. Meanwhile, in Japan, Soichiro Honda saw opportunity in the ruins of his country. He instructed his workers to scavenge metal from dropped American fuel cans to build his company's first engines. Even after earthquakes and bombs leveled his factories, he used the devastation of the post-war landscape to mass-produce cheap motorbikes. Decades later, Pepsi navigated the Cold War by bypassing the worthless Soviet ruble. They negotiated a massive barter system, exchanging vats of Pepsi concentrate for exclusive rights to export Russian Stalakhia vodka into the United States. When the vodka trade was no longer enough, Pepsi escalated the deal. They negotiated directly with the Kremlin to acquire a literal fleet of Soviet commercial freight ships, turning a soda company into a major player in international shipping. To an empire builder, a world war or a systemic collapse provides the ultimate market opening. a moment where resources are cheap and desperation is at peak. Eventually, the public reacts to these tactics. Rockefeller faced a catastrophic PR crisis when journalist Ida Tarbell exposed his predatory business practices, revealing the backroom deals and intimidation that built Standard Oil. Rockefeller responded with a calculated reputation laundry scheme. He became history's greatest philanthropist, pouring hundreds of millions into medicine and education so the public would associate his name with charity rather than corruption. Coca-Cola employs similar tactics to mask its own modern controversies. In Colombia, union workers at bottling plants faced a wave of torture and assassinations, leading to lawsuits alleging the company used death squads. Simultaneously, Indian farmers watched their local wells run dry and their land turn barren as plants pumped out groundwater while dumping toxic sludge. Yet Coke manages to regain public loyalty through engineered nostalgia. When they reintroduced their original formula after the new Coke disaster, the relief was so overwhelming that consumers completely ignored the company's troubling global footprint. Corporate charity and manufactured nostalgia are weaponized distractions. They are designed to ensure the public stops looking at the underlying business practices. Even when governments finally try to intervene, the empires often grow stronger. When the federal government ordered the breakup of Standard Oil, the resulting 34 companies skyrocketed in value on the open market. The dissolution inadvertently made Rockefeller the world's first billionaire. Pepsi transitioned from its history of bankruptcy into an $80 billion conglomerate. It now sits at the center of a web of household names, controlling everything from Frito-Lay and Quaker Oats to Gatorade. Honda evolved from its humble post-war origins into the third largest car company on Earth. Snapchat survived data leaks and stock crashes to quietly pioneer the future of augmented reality. These mega corporations are practically immortal. They survive scandals, world wars, and government crackdowns because their foundations are built entirely on impenetrable market dominance. Global dominance doesn't require good intentions. It requires a brutal obsession. The empires that rule our world today are simply the ghosts of the ruthless playbooks they perfected long ago.